Here we are on the 27th of September, Monday morning, at the front gate to the Vandenberg spaceport.
Take pictures of the cops, sir.
So you don't want to follow us in your own community?
Oh yeah.
It's an off-road vehicle now, man.
No. Yeah.
Parked it on the turn. I'm going to tell you a couple quick things about Landsat. It's like the OG of Earth observing satellites. It's been around for 50 years. Next year will be 50 years. It's through various studies, it's been shown to be the second most valuable government satellite technology to GPS. In 2008, the USGS, so the agency that takes over Landsat at about 100 days in and operates the satellite and takes the data and maintains the archive. 2008, they decided we're going to make all that data publicly available and open. From then till now, it's been downloaded 100 million times. We just hit 100 million this year. It is a beast. It's not like the fanciest Rolls Royce of satellites like some of the other stuff that's been up since 1972, but so many other technologies and other satellite data depends on Landsat data to calibrate. And a lot of the things we know about climate and climate change over time is because of that really long data record that Landsat provides. So if I were reporting about Landsat, those are the things that just about everyone can understand about it. We have a lot of satellites up there. Landsat is very close to my heart. You know, we built one of the instruments there at Goddard. It's a Goddard Space Flight Center NASA satellite that we're gonna hand off to the USGS once it's up and doing its thing. But it's really cool. It's really cool. It's super important to Earth science in general. I want everyone to know that. So a couple more things. This is Bruce Cook. He's the Deputy Project Scientist for Landsat for NASA. USGS also has a project scientist, Chris Crofford. He's here as well. They're here for you. So before launch, if you guys want to take turns interviewing them, doing some stand-ups, please do. We'd appreciate it. That's what that's called. That's the stand-up. I'll be here. Obviously, Vandenberg PA is here as well, and I have some folders. Like we did an actual old-fashioned press kit that I'm going to get out of my trunk and I'll put it on the bus. Feel free to grab one after we're all done here. But mostly, what I want is for everyone to, you know, let's get this thing up into space today. That's a good day, right? If you have any questions for me in between, let me know. Otherwise, they're all yours.
Give me your name.
I am Bruce Cook.
And I'm Chris Crofford.
Okay. And what's your part in Landsat today?
We are both project scientists, and that means we look after the scientific integrity of a mission. We are the conscious of the mission to make sure that the engineering goes off and that the science is not impeded in any way by any decisions that are made before the instrument gets launched into space.
Yeah, I see. And who to report to on something like that?
Oh wow! I guess we report to the science community.
That's what we do. Yeah.
I see. And so you write up a paper after the project, or you watch it, or?
There's a science team.
Yeah, we have a Landsat science team that the NASA and USGS sort of lead together, and we have a really broad community out there, and the science team is there to represent the community. And so what we work on is the science, and we push the data product so that they can get the data they need to do the science.
And there's also, the USGS also does surveys within the science community to make sure that the data that is being provided is the types of data that the community needs. They also, whenever a new Landsat is being formulated, they also poll the community to say, what sort of measurements, what sort of new measurements would help your science better? Is it more frequent measurements? Is it new types of measurements? What would help you the most? So if it's water, you know, what would help? What would help conserve your science? What would help conserve the water resource better? Is there something that would help them manage the water better?
Well, water in the Antelope Valley, where I'm from, is super important.
Yeah.
And USGS has hundreds of wells monitoring the groundwater level. And we recently have had an adjudication in the Antelope Valley cutting back users' water draw from the ground to make sure that we don't overdraw it.
Right.
And so that, and how does Landsat help with that? Can you specifically say? I don't mean to pin you, but
So one of the sensors on Landsat is a thermal instrument, and that is used for measuring how much the crops are using water. So the crops obviously draw water out of the soil, and when they're healthy, they draw water out to. They're taking the water out of the soil, and they'll be cooler. And so the Landsat sensor will sense that they're cooler as they're drawing that water out. If they're not drawing that water out, they tend to look warmer. And so we can actually estimate how much water they're drawing out of the soil. Yeah, it's a pretty neat way of doing that. The other sensor on Landsat also tells you how much crop cover there is. So it tells you how much green area there is. And so these two sensors work together in terms of telling you how much water is being removed by agriculture. There are other NASA sensors actually that tell you how much water is being removed from aquifers by actually sensing gravity. So actually Landsat works with other sensors to tell you how much might be removed from aquifers, and then also how much actually might be removed from agriculture. There really is no one killer sensor. So these days, Landsat's actually used with other sensors as well.
Well, right now, our water district is going through monitoring the wells of private users. And the private users are supposed to give a report yearly of how much they're actually drawing.
Yeah.
Now, and most all of them are. But there are a few that aren't, that don't want to, that resist. And so now the board, the agency, is going through the process of figuring out how they're going to compel these pumpers to fess up, because they want to know how much water is being depleted from the aquifer. You see, so that data would be very important in an argument like that.
Right, and that's the one thing about the Landsat data. It's very impartial in terms of there's no, it's the same calculation is made from field to field. There's no partiality. There's no opinion made or anything like that. It's a very impartial sensor when it comes to that.
Sure.
The other thing too is, and my family comes from a farming background actually, is that, and I know this from my own experience, is that nobody ever wants to put more fertilizer or use more water that isn't being gone into production. That's just a waste of money.
Right.
Anytime you do that, it's a waste of money that's not being used to produce crops.
Right.
And that's where it takes a little convincing to people that it's a waste to be pumping water that's not being used to produce crops, because that doesn't make any sense.
Sure.
That's the reason my dad told me to turn off the lights when you leave the room is because it's not because he was concerned about the environment, he was concerned about his electric bill.
That's
you know?
right.
So that's from my opinion, from a farming background or whatever.
Sure.
It just only makes cost sense. It makes economic. The bottom line from a farmer is. So sometimes it takes convincing that you can grow this, you can have your farm be just as productive, but use less water.
Sure.
That's
Sure. Now this satellite goes around the entire globe, right?
It does, yeah. It's a global mapping mission. So for pretty much 2/3 of the Landsat mission, we've had 2 observatories operating at the same time. Each of those observatories operate at 16-day repeat frequencies, but together they provide an 8-day interval, repeat interval. And so that's what's so important about Landsat 9 is that the Landsat 7 mission is aging and running out of fuel, and so Landsat 9, one of the key elements is for Landsat 9 to replace Landsat 7 in its orbit and join Landsat 8 so that we can continue that 8-day record of really high quality data. I wanted to add something. You were talking a lot about groundwater, and what I add something about the surface water. California is very sensitive to the amount of snow that falls in the wintertime. And so what I was going to say is one of the things that Landsat does really well is it can see where the snow is, and so we can map that snow, and then, like Bruce was saying, with other observations, we can then look at the volume of the snowpack, and you combine that with the hydrological models, and we can get a very good sense for the forecast of how much water is going to be running off the mountain on an annual or seasonal basis. So
Sure.
Landsat can provide that data, and since we've had this long record, we can now then start to map where changes are happening, where maybe snow is no longer falling and it's instead rain. And so those types of scientific investigations are underway in California. And so I just kind of wanted to add that from the surface water.
No, that's a very good point, because what you're saying means you can project quicker than we in the media can write the story about what's happening. I mean, the data would tell us how much snow, how much water we're going to get, how much rain, how much water we're going to get.
Yeah, being able to forecast ahead of time is really important.
Yeah.
To know what the springtime's going to look like ahead of time.
Oh,
before
that's,
spring hits.
yeah, so important. Yeah, plus building permits, and we'll serve letters for developers
Right.
who come and say, I have 140 houses and I need water
Yes.
in perpetuity.
Right.
Can I get it from you?
Right. Right.
And so we have to be able to say, yes, you can get it, or
Yeah.
no, you can't get it.
So one of the things is the California Department of Water Resources, and then also Bureau of Reclamation, that's within is a federal agency within the Department of Interior, are both making lots of investments in trying to quantify the amount of water that's there available at any one time and how that follows down. So I would sort of that there is a fairly large effort to try to get this data out and make those projections so that there can be better planning at the reservoir level.
Yeah,
So that's where I would look for information.
yeah, no, we do all the time, and get reports and write stories, and most of the public could care less, actually, until the water bill goes up, or they're told to restrict watering their lawn,
Yeah.
To only 3 days a week.
Yeah.
Oh boy, then all of a sudden, phone rings off the hook.
I think ignoring the problems, if you ignore the problem, if you ignore the observation, you do so at your own peril, though. Because nature doesn't care what you think so much. you
True,
know.
true. True.
It'll keep the laws of nature will keep on going, and
Sure.
the laws of physics will keep on going, and you can bury your head in the sand, but yeah, that's why these observations are so important, and that's why it's important that people are smarter, and that they show initiative and knowledge and react and do the right thing and try to solve these problems. Sometimes it's an iteration, sometimes we don't always know what we're doing. We think we're doing the right thing.
Sure.
And it backfires on us for one reason or another.
Sure. And the other Landsats, 6543, they're gone. They're
They're not operational anymore. Well, through 6 are not operational anymore. 7 will be decommissioned after 9 checks out. But they're actually still in orbit. They've just been churned off.
I see. So will they be recaptured? Will they be considered space junk and
I guess they're
taken out of orbit and so forth?
They're very high orbit. 5 will come down sometime in like 2035 or something like that. I think.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, each mission has a decommissioning plan. It goes into disposal orbit. And it has re-entry requirements, and eventually it will close into the Earth's atmosphere. Yeah, so that's a back-end requirement.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your knowledge with me, and I'm sure I could sit here all day and ask questions. But there's other people out here that I got to share you with, so thank you very much.
Well, thank you for asking these questions. It's always fun to talk with somebody that's really in tune with what's going on. These application questions are really fun.
Well, we're trying to communicate some of this scientific and expensive stuff to people that are going to work every day, you know? I mean, what's Landsat? I don't even know, you know? Well, this is what it is. So thanks again.
Oh, no problem.
The immediate trailer inside has hookups and plenty of seats for people that want to file their stories. Inside the trailer here are some monitors that have cameras focused on the launch pad down below, and we're hoping that the wind comes up and blows the fog out a little bit so that we can see the rocket a little bit better. But if it doesn't, this is better than nothing. So we are cleared for launch in 5 minutes, and this is the media overlook.
On my mark, the time will be T-minus 4 minutes and counting. 3, 2, 1. Yes, Captain. Seatbelt locked. Rock, report range status. The range is green. Stable at step 3. Data set. Go Atlas. Go Centaur. Go Landsat 9. US 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Release. Engines at full thrust. Lift off. Vehicles clear the tower. Now 15 seconds into flight. Atlas propellant utilization system has gone to closed loop control. System response looks good. RD-180 engine operating parameters continue to look good. Vehicle has begun the pitch over maneuver. Body rates look good. Now passing 40 seconds into flight. Engine operating parameters continue to look good. Pump speeds and injector pressures all within expected ranges. Now 55 seconds into flight. Vehicle is now completing the pitch over maneuver. Body rate responses continue to look good. 3 minutes remaining left time off the flight. Pump speeds and injector pressures on the airway set continue to look good.
For operation 70, step 30, acceptable security roadblock, dispatch tanks, display 3 feet.
Let us wait 35 days. Continuing to look good. Roger. And 1 minute 20 seconds into flight. Atlas is now supersonic. Vehicle passing Mach 1. And vehicle is now passing max Q, maximum dynamic pressure. RD-180 performance continues to look good throughout boost phase. Engine's now throttling down slightly as expected. Engine response looks good. At 1 minute 50 seconds into flight, vehicle is now 10.7, correction, 13 miles in altitude, 7.9 miles downrange distance, traveling at 1,500 miles per hour.
Alright, team, picking up operation 10, get to boost range and cutoff, 7 ground stage 7.
This is a picture of the Landsat 9 vehicle that circulates the Earth 14 times a day, every 99 minutes, and takes about 700 photos every day of the Earth and stores them in South Dakota for anyone to use the data that they would like that comes from this satellite. Landsat can deliver pictures that look like this of Acton, and Agua Dulce.